Hi, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I'm glad to welcome all of you from different countries and different time zones, and those who are not able to attend these meetings but are watching our live on YouTube. I'm really glad that we continue our talks about PM books. And I'm really glad that for today's talk, we have invited one of the best-selling PM book author, Peter Taylor. I'm Lela Machaidze, I'm PMP, and I'm in project management for more than 70 years, and I work for clients from all over the world. If you want to learn more about me, you can visit my social media sites on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook, where I'm posting interesting tips and tricks about project management, about leadership, and other topics. A couple words about today's agenda. We will have 45 minutes of discussion with Peter about his experience writing the book, about other books as well. And the session will be followed with the Q&A session. So please feel free to post your questions. We will be addressing them at the end of our session. The video will be recorded and it will be posted on YouTube channel, so you can share it with your colleagues or friends later. So, hi Peter, hi again, and how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm good, I'm looking forward to the chat, so thank you for inviting me.
Yes, and you can see that we have actually audience from all over the world, from the different parts of the world, and I'm really thrilled. So, to kick off the discussion and do some ice breaking, just tell us what inspired you to write a book from the very beginning.
What inspired? Actually, I was given some advice to write a book. I wanted to get into speaking. I wanted to get into talking about project management. I mean, I practiced project management for many, many years, but I wanted to get into the world of speaking at events, conferences, congresses, etc. And I took some advice from someone who said, well, you need a book. Book is the best business card ever. So go and write a book. And that's kind of how it all started. Back in 2009 was when the first book, The Lazy Project Manager, was written.
Yeah, 2009. And
Yes.
actually, I will be honest, that was one of the first books that I have read because the title was really inspiring. And how you come up with the title?
Well, okay, yes, it is one of my favorite, because so at the time I was leading a PMO, and I had about 117 project managers across 17 countries working in my PMO, and I could see a behavioral difference. Half of them were being reasonably successful, nobody's perfect, reasonably successful, and they're working on average typical working weeks. On average, we know projects go up and down, that's why they're excited, but on average they were working 45-hour weeks. The other half were being just as successful, no more successful, no less successful, about the same, but they were working 50, 60, 70-hour weeks, crazy time. So I started looking at what was the behavioral difference and what were they getting involved in. At the same time, my manager called me the laziest person he'd ever met. And I thought he'd like me, but it turned out, I thought it was an insult, but it wasn't. It was a compliment. He just said, Peter, you found a way to work which is quite smart. It's an intelligent way of working. And that the two came together, because I was suggested I was told you should need to write a book. I need to write about project management because it's the only thing I could think I could write about. And the term lazy project manager came into my head, and I thought, insult your profession and get on, and yes, this will be an eye catcher. And that's how the Lazy Project Manager was born.
So if somebody calls you the lazy project management, it should be considered as a
compliment, right? It's a good thing. I mean, yeah, the essence behind it is working smarter, not harder. It's putting your efforts where it most matters. It's what I summarize as productive laziness, not lazy. Lazy is bad, but productive lazy is very smart and intelligent and a very effective way to work.
Especially, it is good to read the book written by the practitioner. I'm a really big advocate of the book to be written by the practitioners. And as you mentioned yourself, you have been in project management for several years. So what was it the desire to write the book? Was it because you couldn't find any good practical book?
Okay, this is between you and me here.
Okay.
They were so boring. Every project management book I read was so boring. They were theoretically perfect. It was like nobody ever made a mistake. And for me, I mean, I love a sense of, it has to be fun, has to be enjoyable. If I'm having fun, I will learn. I'm one of those people. So I must admit, I was very lucky. I took the lazy approach to finding a publisher, and I only contacted a few online, and I was very fortunate. I got a referral, and this company was looking to move into business books. They were publishers. They had a background. They started a company, the two guys, and they sold it. They started a new company, and then they decided to move into business books. They had a long list of titles, subjects, of which project management was one. These two guys knew nothing about project management. In fact, they were terrible at it when they tried to do it themselves. And they just liked the crazy title. They kind of like me. And so on that basis, I was very fortunate to be able to write a book where I was given no particular guidance. They just said, well, yes, write a book. We want 30,000 words. You go ahead and write it and we'll look at it. And there was almost no editing. They just allowed me to write. I mean, this book with dinosaurs and Monty Python and field marshals and Baloo the bear from Jungle Book and stuff like that in it, completely different, which, as you know, and every chapter has a very honest story where I completely got things wrong but learned an important lesson. And so they allowed me to write a book that was just fundamentally different to anything that was in the market. And here we are, what, 11 years later, still talking about it.
The book itself is a project. And what was your routine for writing the book?
Okay.
Because it requires self-discipline. It requires some habits. So how you get into it?
So there are two types of book that I've written. There was the lazy project manager type book where it's written from my experience. And then there are other books where I've written books about sponsorship. I've written books about branding of projects, marketing of projects, things like that, that require, and sort of PMO leadership as well, but they require a little bit more. Research is too strong. I mean, I do surveys, I interview people, etc. So it's not really true research, but there's work to be done. Now, for those sort of books, the latter ones, the way I write it is in small periods of time when I have some material, some surveys come back, I've done a series of interviews, I write in that way. For the lazy project manager, it really was the way it works is I have a similar office to the one I'm in at the moment. I accumulate things in files, and once I start writing, I print everything off, I stick it all over the walls. And then I just consume it as I go through the book. So when you start writing, you have a general idea of what the book's going to be about and how it's going to look, but it changes as you write. And when I've taken everything off the wall, and either used it or thrown it away, then I have a book. Now, the Lazy Project Manager was written in 2 weeks. So that, and
2 weeks? You gotta be kidding.
No, 2 weeks. It was an intense writing process that I go through, and that's the only thing I focus on. I just write, but when I'm just writing from my experience, I can do that. As I said, when I'm writing with other people, which I have done, when I'm writing a more research-based type book, that is a very different style of writing. It's written over a 6-month period of time typically, but I need a deadline. I'm a bit of a project manager. I need a clear deadline in order to get to the end. And a good example of that is the book that was published last year was a book about business agility. It finally came out at the start of this year. Because of lockdown, I had so much time to write, and it's the only book I've ever delivered late to a publisher's because I just had too much time. I didn't get on with it. So I need a tight deadline.
Based on your feedback right now and the response, I understand the Lazy Project Manager is more practical, and other books that you have mentioned are more survey based, and actually it's more data driven, right?
To a degree. I mean, seriously, the very light level data as far as that's concerned. I mean, I think I try to write, all my books have a degree of humor in them. All of them are fairly short. The longest book I've written is 45,000 words, I think, something like that. I try to make them very consumable. and as insightful as possible. I really can't keep writing too long. I really can't build books up. If I said what I need to say, then I stop. And so my books range from 10,000 words to about 45,000 words maximum.
Yeah, it's pretty good amount to read and not to get really bored and just tons of reading. But what I really enjoyed about book, it is really practical plus enjoyable and fun to read.
Yeah,
because you really recognize the practicality and you recognize yourself in the environment. So am I grasping this?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, as I said, I wrote it so that people could easily read it, and if they can easily read it, they will learn something from it, gain some value from it, be able to reference it as well as and when, and that it's something that it gives some real, as you say, practical advice on how I've approached things and lessons I've learned.
Mm-hmm. What are the main areas you're actually, which segment are you mainly recommending your books? Not only Lazy Project Manager, but other books as well. Is it specific like IT, sphere, or construction, or which areas?
So I've worked in, I think, pretty much all industries, except construction. Construction for me is just different. Mm-hmm. But I write about the principles of project management. I write about the principles of being a project sponsor. I write about leadership in a PMO. So yes, my background is predominantly in the IT arena, but I try not to make my book specific to any one industry. It's more about, I mean, I think a great description of the Lazy Project Manager was, it's about managing yourself whilst you're managing a project. It's about how you deal with things. So on that basis, I think they are widely acceptable and good general books, hopefully.
Actually, right before that we started our conversation, one of our attendees, Jan, asked the question that I haven't read the book, and is it okay for me to listen? And I said, absolutely. And probably the question for you, Peter, will be to answer the Jan, what he would expect from your book if he buys or if he acquires your book, reads your book.
Okay. So first of all, I think it should be an enjoyable experience to read it. It shouldn't be painful. You should easily get to the end. With a Lazy Project Manager, you don't even have to read the whole book. You can skip when you get to chapter 4. You can go straight to the end where it summarizes everything. So I've applied the 80-20 rule to the book. So it's not a big book, but you don't have to read it all even. But I think it will be an enjoyable experience. Hopefully, it will make you smile occasionally. And it will give you some good stories of that you can think about and go, okay, I could, I've done that, and I might behave differently, or I'll recognize that in the future. And I think it will be that. The people tell me they like it because it's short, it's funny, and it's very practical. So
this is the key word, being a practical, because all the theoretical books, you all read it and then think how I should apply it in my work.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very honest as well. I mean, as I said, it's about me getting everything possible wrong in a project, really, but learning from it, and hopefully by sharing that experience with people, it'll stop those people making the same mistakes. They can make different mistakes and learn from those.
Yeah, and actually, we all learn better from the mistakes, I think.
Yes, absolutely, definitely. Yeah.
Interesting. What about other books? Tell us a little bit more about the other books, which books you have written. And actually, recently I received a survey from you, so you must be having something on your mind for the future books as well.
Yeah, I think I'm up to 22 books now. So 22 books in 11-12 years now. Yeah, I mean, the most recent, well, the newest book that's coming out in October will be around AI, artificial intelligence, and the project manager, and how that would impact the world of project management. And it's going to be huge. And that was a fascinating experience to write that. And I reached out to some people, and they contributed some sections, some chapters for me. I talked to a very experienced project managers and some new project managers, and that was a great deal of fun to write. So I've written about project sponsorship, leadership of PMOs, building PMOs, I've written about basic project management skills. I've written about project marketing and branding. I've written a whole series of lazy project manager theme books around, project health and things like that. The one, if I can talk to it, the one I had so much fun last year was a book called The Projectless Manager. And during lockdown, I was seeing so many people on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, and please do connect to me on LinkedIn. It's a great place. I saw so many project managers saying they had no work, they've been released, their projects have stopped. We know it was a crazy time last year, and obviously into this year as well. And I had this idea on Sunday, and on Monday I posted on LinkedIn that I was going to set a challenge that we, the global project management community, will write a book in 21 days and get it published. Wow. And I set there was a very tight deadline. I said, if you're interested, let me know. You've got 2 days to let me know. I had over 100 people let me know. I then gave a brief, which was, you have 500 words to tell me about something brilliant you're doing right now in the current crazy times, or 500 words about something you think will change in the future that will be really useful to use. And we did it. I think I got 55 people contributed in the end. I can't remember how many, about 22 countries, something like that. And we put it together. And we got it published through Amazon in Kindle and printed format in exactly 21 days. And I even got the children of the project managers to help design the cover of the book. I've had a competition. And so the cover of the book is a brilliant, colorful crayon drawing by one young lady. And we did it all for charity. We did it for the NHS. So, and my point about that was so much fun. There's some really brilliant ideas in it. And just, if we did that in 21 days, imagine what the global community of project managers could achieve. And so, yeah, super fun.
So project managers are also using the 21-day rule and creating from nothing really amazing book, and this is global achievement.
Absolutely. Yes. So yes, we that was hard work. We were pushing very hard, and I had to say no to some people who were a little bit late. It was a really quite challenging time frame, but yes, we got it in and we got it done, and I'm very proud of it. And there are typos in it. We know there's some problems in it. We're slowly tidying those up, but we achieved something, and it was brilliant.
It's amazing. And you mentioned that you have written one book, Basic Skills for Project Managers, and how the basic skills for project managers changed since that you wrote The Lazy Project Manager, and now you're writing the book about AI. So the time flies.
Yeah, interesting
how
question.
Changed?
Yeah, well, I think it will change. I think it will change, but the essence of what if you look at the Lazy Project Manager, as I said, it's all about how you manage yourself. It's about the soft skills. It's not about project management methodology or approach, etc. And we can all have a lovely debate about agile and all the rest of it, but the book isn't about that. It's about you as a person, how you manage other people, really. And so if you move all the way to the AI world, Gartner says, for example, that by 2030, 80% of what project managers do today will be done by AI. AI will do it better. It will never tire. It will never make mistakes. It will get it done. What does that mean for project managers in the future? Well, I think what it means is that they can spend the time on the people, moving away from the mechanics, if you like, of projects. And so I don't think it's changed that much. If it's changed at all, it's the fact that people who run projects these days are overloaded with many demands from many stakeholders, and reporting and updates and social media reporting out, etc., and communication and processes and all of that stuff. And if we're honest, as project managers, some of that really doesn't excite us too much. It's quite boring. I never used to enjoy all the complicated reporting out to different people, etc. So if technology can take that over, and I can spend my time re-engaging with my team members and building a great team spirit, a strong visibility of purpose, then we can only do things better, I think. So it has changed, but I think generally those principles are exactly the same.
The core values and core principles remain the same. And I love the saying that projects are managed by people and worked by people. done by people.
That's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. And I think, I'm not anti-methodology, but, I think, sometimes it can become quite burdensome and pressurized. And, the question has always been, does it truly deliver value? Does it deliver the project, or is it actually slowing the project down?
Yeah. Peter, what is a success of the project for you? What it means a successful project?
Well, for me, it's having a happy client. And yes, a component of that is delivering on time, to budget, to scope, to quality. It's in there, but it's far more complicated than that. I have delivered projects on time, to scope, to budget, and I've had an unhappy client, an unhappy stakeholder. I've done the opposite. I've spectacularly delivered late and under scope and over budget, and I've had a delighted. It's about, when I talk to project managers these days, it's about constantly tracking what the business needs that you're working with. What is the opportunity to deliver, and not getting locked into a definition that was done weeks, months ago. Having that open mind and flexibility, so you're constantly looking at potential changes and potential opportunities, about delivering something beyond the original brief, if you like, that truly delights the recipients of the solution, or the process, whatever it is you're delivering, the product. It's a matter of how do you track that in order to do, for me, in my world, it is client-facing projects. It's having very happy clients who give great scores back.
So we go with the customer centricity,
Yeah,
and all over the world, and it's not changing. It's the same in every project. It's
outcome centric. What are you trying to deliver? It's not the fact. Yes, I can go back to my early days of having massive, great specifications. I remember one that was, got 4 volumes of paper that thick, was the specification of solution. The project ran for 3 years. We never went back and changed it. As a company, as a project manager, I led a solution that, when it finally was delivered in its entirety, was nearly 3 years old. And I can look back now and think, well, that can't possibly have satisfied the client at that point in time. It was contractually perfect, but the client's business had evolved. So, that doesn't work these days.
I had the same exactly. Actually, when I wrote, I have read your book. I read your book. Actually, it was strange. But then I really noticed myself as a project manager that really success means that the customer is happy.
Yeah.
And I really teach it to my students. So it's interesting. Out of all those 22 books, which is your favorite? Should I ask, or I already know it?
Well, it's a difficult one. The most fun I had was a Project List Manager, the 21-day challenge, but none of it would exist without going back to the Lazy Project Manager. The Lazy Project Manager has sold more than all of my other books put together. The Lazy Project Manager has taken me to nearly 500 presentations around the world in 25 countries. So I've got to go to that one, and I am truly grateful of giving that crazy opportunity to write a book exactly how I want to write it, with a publisher who allowed me to make that to happen. So I have to say the Lazy Project Manager, because it's the foundation for everything that's happened to me over the last 10, 12 years.
Unfortunately, we don't have it in Georgian because probably the population is too small, and but it would be interesting, because lazy, the name for Georgians, could be very close to the heart, because nobody really wants to do more than they intend to do. It's interesting. Actually, what was the hardest part of writing your book? So you said that you wrote it in 2 weeks, but the most challenging part that you remember that was,
the most challenging part was making the word count that was required of me. I stopped just after 20,000 words and go, that's it, I've said everything I need to say. And my publisher said, no, that's too small. You need to write some more. So I'll be honest, that's where the the cheat sheets at the end that came in, of like, well, let me repeat everything I said, but much quicker, and let me do it even faster, and let me add those final sections, which are kind of almost nonsense, I must admit, but they're actually things that people like. And so I'm grateful that happened. So it wasn't difficult. It's just like I reached a point and go, well, I think that's it. I think the book's done. And they said, no, contractually you have to do 30,000 words. Oh, okay, let me go and make up some more words. So yeah, not too difficult at all. I mean, none of the books I've written, I would say, are difficult, have been difficult to write. The book I wrote on sponsorship, I wrote with 2 other people, and the only difficulty there was getting agreement. And I've written with 1 other person, it's fairly straightforward. With 2 people, it was a real battle between the 3 of us to come to an agreement. So that was probably the hardest thing.
So you think it's harder to be co-writer of the book or be on your own?
It depends how you write. So, you know, with the project management basics book, and with what else do I write? The second PMO book, I co-wrote, but the way we structured it, we wrote separate chapters. So that was it was relatively easy to write, because they would contribute a chapter, that was their voice, and I would weave it into the book. But with the sponsorship book, it was 3 of us equally writing, and that was it just took time to reach agreements, and there was a lot of discussion, a lot of long calls to talk about terms, etc. So, you know, it wasn't difficult, it was just harder and took more time to do.
Yeah, actually, reaching the consensus and agreement probably is the hardest part. In Georgia, we don't have the glossary for project management or even for the general management terminology. And the project managers, we always come and battle which word is the right one to use for specific translation. So I truly understand your pains. Actually, since the lazy project manager was very good, actually, with the title, content, and everything, is there any plans to write the lazy project manager revision 1 or version 1?
It's on the 2nd edition, so it has been updated.
Okay.
It was updated after about 5-6 years. And then I wrote a very special version for the 10th anniversary. Which was more of a thank you to everybody, all the incredible things that I've been allowed to experience as a result. Beyond that, no, I don't think there are any plans. I mean, it was a book that is to a degree timeless, because it's not linked to any particular process or, you know, hot topic, etc. You know, I think it can run. I'm amazed it's still popular and still still selling today. I mean, you know, had you asked me at the beginning, I would have said, well, if I get 2 or 3 years, that'd be fantastic. But no, it's still selling.
Yeah, but because it's really practical. I can tell you myself, I use it quite a lot. Actually, it would be interesting to hear from you, the project manager. You say that you write for project managers how they should be managing projects or PMOs. So what would be 3 advices that you will give to project managers here and for the future project managers?
Well, let's start with the future project managers. Future project managers, pay attention to AI. It's coming. It's a freight train. It's huge. It will change life. But, you know, the 3 things, I mean, fundamentally, project management is about people, as you said. So communication is massive. You know, get your communication right. Constantly look at the way you're communicating with people and find the most effective way to communicate. This is increasingly challenging in the virtual world of how you connect to people, because, you know, if I look back at my my first project, I got everybody into one room, all my resources were in one building, and that for me was a challenging project at the time. These days we start projects never meeting people. You know, right now I'm working with a new team. I don't know when I'm ever going to meet them. If you know, I will one day, but we've got to get going with a whole load of actions, etc. So communication, I think, really is a massive focus. I think the other part which is linked to that is care about the people you're working with. You know, as a project manager, whilst people are working on your project, you're not their line manager, but you have a degree of responsibility for a small part of their career, for a small part of their time in that organization. And so you've got to care about that and give them that opportunity to reach out to you and talk about problems and challenges and difficulties. The longer the project, the more likely this is going to happen. And part of that is also being there to give them feedback and help them. and give advice, etc. You know, this is not something you can build into your, you know, your project schedule or your work breakdown structure or anything like that. But it's part of probably my third tip here is, as a project manager, the essence behind a lazy project manager in the middle of the project is, do not book yourself out 100% of the time, because your job is to constantly elevate and look and see where the project's going, to proactively go around your project team members and talk to them, engage with them, learn from them, and to be able to respond almost immediately when there are problems and decisions to be made. And if you're buried in the detail, 100% capacity, how can you possibly do that? So I would say that they're my 3 top tips.
Yeah, and actually, for those who has just joined, thank you for joining. And if you have any questions or comments, here on the chat. And George just put the books that Peter was mentioning, the Lazy Project Manager, the 2nd edition, and other books, so you can directly go and see them. Thank you, George, for this. You mentioned the communication and care for people. Have I missed this 3rd one?
Well, the 3rd one is not 100% capacity, is to give yourself time to proactively talk to people and to react when needed. So, you know, one of the common faults I see with young project managers, you know, inexperienced project managers, is they get so busy that they forget to look. They forget to say, hello, Omar.
Yes, sorry. Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah, they get so busy and so that they forget to elevate, they forget to look. And your job is to go, where is this project going and what are the problems ahead?
I see. We talked about the skills, and I understand this is, it has crucial importance. But what about the knowledge and certification? What future PM will need? What do you think?
This is one of the conversations I have in the new book. And it's, you know, I am being provocative and I am being challenging, but let's say we've reached that point where AI is doing 80% of what you do as a project manager right now, and doing it well, doing it tirelessly, 24/7.
How long it will take for AI to take 80% of your time?
Well, the research is saying by 2030, so not too far away. So in 9 years. That's the prediction from Gartner and from others as well. There's a lot of research out there. So around that sort of time. Now, if you get to that point, then you've got to ask, you know, the question has to be asked is, well, what does that mean for my certification today? That certification is irrelevant because it measures things you're not going to be doing anymore, predominantly. What is the purpose of the communities out there if they don't change? And so it's not only a matter of the fact that the project managers of the future are going to have to change, and I'm sure the next generation coming in are not going to have a problem with that. They're going to consume this new world. It's probably the project managers who've been around for a while who are going to have a trouble change it, perhaps. But equally, all of those supporting organizations, those you know, institutes, etc., that represent project managers around the world, that run massive certification programs, all the training companies, their world is going to fundamentally have to change. And, you know, what does this mean? Does this mean that the intelligence of projects is going to be in some mega cloud somewhere and you could draw down on it, etc.? And does it mean that your, you know, as an example, you know, your PMP today is utterly worthless in 5-6 years' time? Lots of great conversations and lots of great discussions around that. The way I've always looked at certification for project managers who work for me is, it's a great test. It does not tell me you're a good project manager. What it tells me is you are dedicated to project management. You are willing to put the time in to prepare and take an exam that measures you in a certain way, but it does not make you a good project manager. But I do like to see it because it's a part of the balance of a measurement of a great project manager.
It's like already like a basics. So you know the basics, but how you put it on the real world is completely different story.
Yeah. It's a bit, I mean, the analogy I use is, you know, when you pass your driving test. Passing your driving test does not make you a good driver.
Sure.
Learning to pass your test doesn't make you a good driver. The experience afterwards makes you a good driver, hopefully. So it's a bit like that. Is, you know, you need to reach a certain level. It's great to be measured that you have achieved that level, but actually it's everything that happens after that turns you into a great project manager. That is never measured. I mean, you know, I passed my driving test many years ago, many years, grey hair, look. And I don't have to take my test again, which is crazy, really, but it's like forever. But it's the experience I had during those probably first 10 years of driving that have made me the driver I am today.
Mm-hmm. And actually, there are tons of free certifications and other different certifications. So now I see wicked problem solving, design thinking, and so on and so on. And actually, the project manager will need all those knowledges, not separately one, but it should be multi-layered knowledge. So you at least know the basics and technology, but how you apply, who knows? This is up to the individual, right?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the whole move these days is away from methodology to a framework of structure. And, you know, for an experienced project manager, you just navigate it. For a junior project manager, here's the guidelines the way through. So, yeah.
So what will be your recommendation for the junior project managers, the ones who just thinking to become or not as a project manager?
I think, you know, the number one thing is to find what I call a safe haven for starting your journey. You know, working in an organization that has a mature PMO, for example, a great community of project managers, a good mentorship or buddy system in place, is a safe environment for you to enter project management and learn without being exposed. You know, when I started in project management, I was the project manager in my company. I had nowhere else to go, no one to turn to. I made many mistakes, absolutely. But it was tough. And it's, you know, that's almost impossible to do these days because the complexity of projects is so great. So to have an environment, you know, whenever I lead a PMO, I mean, I try and create a kind of community that allows to bring people in, to support them, to help the green beans to thrive in the early days, and to give them increasing challenges and more complex projects, but never leave them alone. And I think that's the main thing is, you know, try and find a safe place to enter into project management and start work your way up.
Sometimes I recommend even to volunteer to start as a PM. So you have safe environment and have some support from the mentors as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you shouldn't be. And that's another thing we talked about. You know, how do you measure a good project manager earlier on? For me, like a senior project manager, that's part of their job. It's delivering projects, it's staying on top, it's contributing to the framework of delivery and the knowledge, and it's supporting the junior project managers in entering the career. And that's a very rounded project manager for me. It's not someone who's just solely focused on their project and that's all they will care about. And that's definitely what I try and look for in senior members.
How different millennial PMs are from the PMs like ourselves? What do you think?
Are you saying we're not millennials?
Not really.
How different are they? I think they're ambitious to learn. They want to move fast, and I think you have to give them regular incremental increases in challenges to measure them. But I've generally found that they have accepted feedback and support and comment and guidance, etc. I think they tend to, in my experience, they tend to decide quite quickly, is this for me or not? Yeah, they'll appear, they'll spend a year or two, and then they yes or no. And if they say yes, I think that then they settle down and they can be great project managers. Mm-hmm. The technology for them is nothing. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I think it's their maturity of learning to work with people and engage with a whole range of people is something that's the biggest learning curve for millennials.
And you mentioned one of the skills for PMs is the first skill is communication, and the communication skill for them probably will be something to really work hard on it. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What do you think? How the COVID pandemic has changed the PM world?
It's changed it. It's interesting. So I think it's accelerated remote project management. Certainly in my world. I mean, you know, it's something I've been talking about for a while, but it had to happen. And now suddenly projects are happening where, you know, the project manager has never been near the client, never been on site, never engaged with the client's project team, etc., and they're still being successful. So I think that's changed things quite a lot, that that people have accepted it. I think it's because everybody was impacted. It wasn't the fact that, you know, we're deciding we're going to have remote project management and that's what it's going to be like. No, everybody had to become remote for the most part. And so there is this acceptance. And I think the other thing is, you know, in the community out there, yeah, I look forward to the day when we can move back into physical conferences. They're going to be great, but I don't think they're ever going to be purely physical in the future. I think they will be hybrid, because they found that, you know, where you might have run a conference and got, you know, 200 people to attend, what they find now is you can get 500 people to attend remotely. So why would you give up on that? So I think in future, I can foresee that I'll be on a stage perhaps in 2022 and beyond. I'd love that. But it will also be live streamed. It will also be, you know, I did one recently, which was hybrid, and you know, I was remote, and there were 100 or so people in the room, and they had speakers from around the world, and it worked. You know, the technology is there, people's understanding is there. So I think there are probably two big areas it's changed the most.
Actually, the first ever experience of talking with the hundreds of thousands of people was with you, me being as a speaker at the Citibank organized event, and it was really awkward. But since that it has changed, and now you understand that the people and they are in the chat, and so it becomes more of an everyday life routine.
Absolutely. And there are lots of tools you can use and ways, you know, I use Menti a lot for as an example of interaction. You know, I like to interact with the audience, connect with them and get views, and it's a very visual tool. And there are other tools as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What will be the biggest challenge, what do you think, for managing the remote teams for the PM?
I think it's, I mean, teams haven't fundamentally changed. And, you know, if you go through the good old classic, you know, Tuckman model of teams, you know, they form, they storm, they norm, and they perform. I mean, that's the basic 4 phases. Teams are put together. They go through a difficult period where they learn to work with each other. They then come out of that and they enter a kind of a normal state where they're working. And then towards the end of projects, often they become high performing. Everybody knows everybody, everybody trusts everybody. Communication is just brilliant, and they become high performing. Well, the problem with or the challenge with virtual teams is, how do you make that happen quickly? Because, you know, we're working together. You know, you might be working on my project team, but your manager is probably potentially just down the corridor from you in the office, perhaps, or much closer, or in your time zone, or speaks your language. I don't, you know. So how do I convince you that what I'm asking you to do is the important thing to do? So I think the biggest challenge really is that creating what I call the visibility of purpose. What is it we're trying to achieve as a project? And are you passionate about it as well? Can I connect you to the objectives, the outcome? If I can, then you've got a great team.
Yeah, that's just right to the point, just to be passionate about what you do and have the same purpose and be aligned to one mission and goal. Yeah. Amazing. I can talk with you for hours. But we have actually questions, and we have pretty active audience, and thank you for this. And actually, we start questions, and the first question was from, I think, question. We have comments like Nigel said, Henry Ford coined the phrase, success is a poor teacher. Yes, I agree. I remember that too. Zaza, hello. Is this a true story that Bill Gates said that he's always hiring lazy people who is finding the easiest way to solve particular issue? And is this book about?
Well, and yeah, that sort of comment has been credited to many leaders, including Gates. Yes, it is. I mean, you know, in the book, you know, I talk about a field marshal who talks about, you know, the best people, the leaders are people who are lazy and smart. You know, they put those two things together. So yes, I think it is a matter of finding the most efficient way to do something. We can all be very busy at being busy. We can, you know, and that's great. But the reality is, if you're trying to achieve something, what is the most effective way to do it? And when you've done it, stop doing it and do something else.
Actually, I have a friend who is attending this, George, and he's always, can we do a template? don't waste time, too much time on it. Can we do a template? So I love it. So
absolutely.
Actually, we have congrats from Lauren. Thank you. And I don't see it as much questions. This first version is best practice, the professionalization of project managers, etc. Still the feeling to tell the same story to business managers related on basics, or so much projects not successful. So poor resource management, lack of leadership. So it's much of a comment, I think, not related.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you, Lauren, for the comment. Peter, would it be interesting to know more about who is building and training the machine learning model, including the NLP, as I work with data science and I am aware of the errors and biases on the training data?
Okay. So what I was just there, because it's a big topic and lots of companies, all the major companies are working on this in the background. But if you go onto YouTube, you can find my YouTube channel, and then in there is a presentation I did around AI and project management, and you get to hear from a couple of the providers out there. They're talking about, realistic or practical AI, and they're talking about AI as applied to the project teams of the world. The kind of people-centric AI. So yeah, I check that out, and I think that give you a couple of flavors.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously buy the book when it comes out in October, because it tells you more.
Yes, we all go and buy it.
Yeah,
so you know where. Okay. The next question from Evgeny. Peter, what do you see as the main PM problem as of 2021?
I think when you talk to PM, they typically talk about the increasing pressure on the outcomes from their projects and the increasing number of projects that they're managing. It's all about compression of time and increase of expectation. And I think that's why we're at this point in time where something has to change. And again, I'm going to go back to AI. I think that's going to be the facilitator to this change, because they feel that they are under so much pressure. They don't have time to do the stuff we talked about. They don't have enough time to communicate properly. They don't have enough time to build their team up. They don't have enough time to work with the people or to care about the people, because what's expected of them is increasingly challenging, and they're given more and more work to do. And I think that's the biggest problem, biggest challenge.
Well, you mentioned several times as one of the three, one of them was caring for the people. Mm-hmm. I'm really struggling myself. How can when I physically work with the team, I always can express emotionally how I care about them, for their families and all other stuff. But I find it really hard to show the care in remote world.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So as a PM, with my experience, I find it pretty difficult. How do I express it? Because the texting doesn't really express the emotions, right?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, you've got to reach out to them. I mean, the first thing I think you have to set, you're doing right. I mean, you're setting the stand that you care about the people, and secondly, I'm sure you do sessions where you learn about those people. It's not just about the project. It's about Peter, this week, why don't you share with us a little bit about your life? What's happening? Tell us about your family, your hobbies, that kind of stuff. And then I think the last part really is that you've set the scene that you are open to a conversation anytime. Any problem they've got, they can contact you. And I think the last part is you have to proactively contact them sometimes. Not the regular calls, but maybe out of the blue. Can we have a chat for 15 minutes? I just want to reach out to you and talk to you, like I met you in the corridor, like we bumped into each other at the coffee machine. We talked about changes, and I think that's one of the things that's missed now. I'm all for the hybrid world. I love working remotely. It's great, but I think the thing that's missing for a lot of people is that ability to be in the office and to bump into people, to meet people, to socialize. I know I talked to someone who was, when this lockdown happened, when COVID really got kicked off, all the work carried on, but they suddenly realized very quickly that all of the social part has stopped. And so they started setting up coffee mornings and open sessions and after work, virtual go down the pub type things, because all of that interaction had been stripped out completely. So you just have to watch that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So next question from Oksana. Contributing to the project list manager was fun.
Okay.
Lazy project manager style. Thanks for that experience, Peter. Question, in your experience, would giving books away for free make a difference for a new writer in project management?
Yes, it does actually. So when the Lazy Project Manager was published, after about a year, my publishers came to me and said, we're going to give the book away for free. And I said, okay, how does that work on royalties? And they said, well, you won't get any. So, okay, why are we doing this? And they said, it works. And so for 3 months, the book was given away completely free. And you know what? What you saw was people, I mean, it was only given away as an ebook. People bought the paperback version. My community of network grew. My bookings for speaking grew as well. So yes, it is absolutely a tactic, and we did it again on the 10th anniversary. On the 10th anniversary, for a month, the book was given away free again, and I can't remember how many copies were downloaded. But again, you kind of see that you know what, this works because people talk about it. This works because people say that's a great book. I read it, and why don't you check it out? Or Peter Taylor was a fun speaker. You should get him at your conference or your business. So yeah, giving stuff away. It's one of those things you think it's the wrong thing to do, but actually giving most of it away is actually, most people with articles I've written, blogs I've written, podcasts, YouTube videos, you could pretty much everything is out there in the public domain, but actually people still like the book.
So you think that the hard copy of the book will still remain? Will it be the same demand, or will decrease the demand for that?
It's been pretty constant. I mean, with book sales, I haven't looked at it for a long time, but book sales typically 1 in 4 were hard copies, and 3 in 4 were e-book versions, because that's what people like to consume, etc. And that has remained pretty constant throughout the years.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
Have you done the analysis, which part of the world uses more hard copies and more e-copies?
No, I haven't done that. I mean, so my big markets are UK, America, Canada, Australia, Germany, which really surprised me. Germans love Lazy Project Manager, and in fact, that was translated into German. The markets I haven't broken into, and I'm pretty certain it's because of the language, are the Asian markets. I think overcoming the term lazy as anything positive, I don't think works in that kind of culture, and that's a shame, but that's the reality of it.
What about other books? The same rate in Asia?
Yeah, I think because the Lazy Project Manager has given me the presence in the market that's allowed the other books to sell. So until you break into it, I mean, it has sold some, but nothing like the same amounts. And I've never done speaking out there or anything like that. And it all comes from that core foundation.
That's why I'm saying in Georgia, this book will be very popular, I'm sure, because the world tells itself. Okay, we have a question from George. Will AI be also communicating with the stakeholders? Yeah,
absolutely. It'll be all the great thing, because in life, we've already started adopting stuff. I use, whenever I navigate my car, I'm interacting with AI constantly, and it's giving me advice and guidance, and it works well. So yes.
Yeah. Thank you. We have a question from Harsha. Project managers are said to have transferable skills, so to be adaptive, but nowadays everyone looks for PM with specific field-related skills. How can we tackle this?
It's a difficult one. I've always maintained, I mean, again, I'm going to go back to, I don't think I can manage a project in the construction industry. It's just different. I don't understand terms or anything, but I've worked in projects across multiple industries, and I think they are, for the most part, transferable. I've always had to have, someone who knows that industry really well working with me, whether it be a solution architect or a subject matter expert of some form, and that partnership is brilliant. Yeah, at the moment it's a really interesting one. I see increasingly adverts for someone, we want a project manager with this skill set, nothing else will do. And yet what I'm seeing is also there's a battle out there for talent with a lot of competing businesses. So I don't quite understand how those two worlds can exist, because I know, you know, my own world, it's, you know, we're all focused on retention of project managers, and the market seems to be opening up and increasing. So I don't see how you can ask for both when there's that challenge. I'm not sure what the answer is to solve it. I mean, apart from, you know, the market will settle down eventually. And, you know, for me, when I look at, when a project manager comes to me, I'm looking at what is their maturity when it comes to understanding the process of projects, the you know, delivery of change, the organizational management that is required, the kind of interaction with people, the communication skills. That's far more important to me than have they done a project in the industry I'm talking about.
I see. The question a little bit about like your personal, has any of your family members read your books? Any of your
No. None of my children have. No, and I mention them in the book. But yeah, no, my partner's read it. I mean, Juliet has read the Lazy Project Manager, and I thank her for that. It's the only one she has read. So no. I mean, the only book that any of my family have not read but have been read to, I wrote one children's book about meerkats, which was just something fun to do, and so I wrote that, and I have read that to some of my children.
I see. If you can invite 3 people that you
Yes.
don't know, but you really would like to have a dinner, who those 3 people would be?
This was, yes, you did warn me about this question because I had to think about it. Look, I've just gone for what I think would be a really interesting dinner party. So I've gone for film, I've gone for books, and I've gone for music. You know, my kind of 3 loves. So I've gone for Clint Eastwood because I'm a major fan of Clint Eastwood's work. I've gone for Douglas Adams, the author of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, because I just think he would be fun, and I love. In fact, one of my books has "Don't Panic" written on the cover. And Dave Gilmour from Pink Floyd, because I just love Pink Floyd music, and he, as a guitarist, he's phenomenal. So three people I think I hope will make for an interesting dinner party.
Excellent, excellent, interesting. Actually, another question will be the writing and publishing books. Has it changed how you see yourself as a person, as an individual?
Has it changed me? It's changed in what I've achieved. Absolutely. It's changed how I think I can communicate with the world, because I think, well, having based that first one, I can, if I'm passionate about something, I can write about it, and if I write about it, I can get it published, or I can publish it myself. That's, you know, that is relatively easy to do these days. I think, I mean, the one lesson I have learned is not everybody loves what you do. So the very first time I got any criticism, I was really quite upset by it. But when you put things in the public domain, the public can say they like it or they hate it, and you have to be ready for that. So that was quite, for me, it was quite insightful to learn. I don't handle that particularly well, that kind of brutal. In fact, the first review I got was really, really hard. One guy just did not like the book at all, and I've learned to accept that you know, that's the way it is.
Great, great. How would you describe yourself in 3 words?
I would say, and I have to say this: smart, lazy, and fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. We are about to 1 hour.
Okay.
I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you to everybody who attended and stayed for this really enjoyable conversation. And I'm sure you will enjoy the reading also the book. So you know where to find the Peter and Peter's books. So thank you everybody for joining. Actually, the last question, Peter, what would be the PM book that you, our author, you would recommend?
My favorite one, it's not even a project management book, but the one I always talk about is a book by Brian Tracy. It's called Eat That Frog, and it's all about not putting things off. I just love the book. I love the whole essence of it. It's even shorter than my books, and it's an important topic.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you everybody for joining this talk. I really enjoyed, and I'm sure you enjoyed the talk as well. We will be sending a quick survey after our meeting to see your feedback. Also, we will be asking your favorite PM book. What is your favorite book? And we will try to invite the author for our next talk for the PM. And please visit our YouTube channel. Feel free to share it on the Facebook or LinkedIn. So thank you very much and see you next time.
Bye everyone. Be lazy.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. It was an amazing session. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Lela.
All right. All the best.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you.